Hello friend, before starting the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it. This may seem like a small step, but for us it is the key to success. Enjoy listening.
Victims of the system. The city never falls silent. It is the sound of engines, the wail of police sirens, the thud of the richest limousines along the avenues. But the sound we hear even in sleep is the sound of silence, the sound of fear. We call it Big Brother. Its official name is the State Committee for the Leadership and Development of the People. But it has nothing to do with the people or development. Its single duty is to watch us, to bend us, to silence our voice. Let me tell you about our first victim. His name was Ahmad. He was a 45-year-old laborer who worked at the port. His hands were thick, his face weathered by the sun, his back forever bent by work. His only crime was wanting, together with his co-workers, to work a few extra hours to earn bread. But for Big Brother, that was rebellion. It was a threat to the system. One evening, as he left work, he and 5 others were arrested. The official charge: anti-state activity and illegal organization. They took them to the basement of Big Brother's building. I do not wish to go into the details of what they did to them there, but know this: Ahmad's voice, his screams, were so powerful that even the concrete walls could not hold them. In front of his co-workers, before their eyes, he was broken, not his soul. He remained a man, but his will, his pride. A week later, they released him. But Ahmad did not come home. He was nothing anymore, just a trembling body with vacant eyes. He did not even recognize his own son, and the system had won. It had gotten another victim. But this was only the beginning. Big Brother is never satisfied. It always wants more. The next victim was nothing like Ahmad. She had never set foot near the port. Her name was Layla. She was 25, a literature teacher at a state school in the city's outskirts. Her only weapons were poems and ideas. Her only crime was teaching her students to ask questions, to doubt. In her classroom hung an old but treasured plaque on the wall: "To ask questions is more honorable than to bow down." That was her motto. But to Big Brother, it was a flag of rebellion. Layla secretly prepared copied, banned books for her students. Dostoevsky, Orwell, Havel, authors who are standard bearers of freedom of expression. They read them and discuss them. This was their small, hidden resistance. But Big Brother's eyes and ears are everywhere. One of her encouraged students betrayed her, out of fear or perhaps to protect his family. He revealed the location of the lessons. One morning, before class began, Big Brother's agents entered the school. Their shoes filled the empty corridors with sound. They opened Layla's classroom door. In front of the children, they arrested her. They threw her books to the floor and trampled them underfoot. She offered no resistance. She simply looked into her students' eyes. She saw the terror and shame in their faces, and bidding them farewell, as if never to return, she let them go. They took her away. This time there was no physical torture, but psychological torment. For days, for weeks, they left her isolated in a dark, silent cell. Then they would come to talk to her. They told her that her students had accused her, that they were disgusted by her ideas. They told her her family had disowned her. It was all a lie, all of it. But if you leave someone alone long enough, a single voice can begin to feel like the truth. Finally, they released her. But the Layla who returned home was no longer Layla. She no longer believed in anything, neither in books, nor her students, nor her own thoughts. She was afraid, even of her own shadow. And so the system triumphed again. This time it destroyed an idea, a hope, a future. They had taken Ahmad's strength. Layla's spirit they had taken as well. But nobody was safe. Neither worker nor teacher. For the system is always searching for a new enemy, a new victim. The next victim's story is one that no one wants to see, because it speaks of the things we are all afraid to protest. His name was Kamran. He was 72, a retired history teacher. His only weapon was memory, and his only crime was remembering and speaking of the past. Mr. Kamran loved to sit in a small park and talk about the past. Children would gather around him and listen to stories that are no longer found in books. Heroes, lost values, mistakes, he explained them all in simple words. But for Big Brother, speaking of the past is the most dangerous activity. For they want only the present and the future they create. The past is the one place they cannot control. One day, a notice came to Mr. Kamran. He was told he had received an official warning for distorting history and misleading society. They told him that if he continued to speak, his pension would be cut. They would not send him to prison because he was old and ill, but they would dismiss his son from his job. His son was the family's only breadwinner. Mr. Kamran remained silent for a while, but one day, a group of young people came to the park and asked him about the past. He could not remain quiet. In truth, he did not want to remain quiet. He told the truth. The next day, his son was fired, arbitrarily, but everyone understood why. Mr. Kamran went to Big Brother's building, alone, with his bent back but a straight posture. There they asked him, "Why have you come, old man?" He replied, "Return my son's job. Even if I go silent, you will still have destroyed me. But at least don't ruin my child." They laughed at him. They told him, "You are no longer telling a story. You are setting an example, and examples must be erased." They did not arrest him. Instead, they moved him and his son to the city's farthest, poorest neighborhood. They cut them off from social life, from friends, even from their closest relatives. No one could go near them. Now Mr. Kamran sits by a small window and looks out onto the street. No one speaks to him. His son sits at home, hopelessly searching for work. And Mr. Kamran no longer tells stories. He simply sits at the window and thinks about the past. But this time the system had not achieved a total victory. Yes, it had destroyed him. But his silence is like a scream heard in every street and every home of the city. Everyone knew that one day they too could become like Kamran. The next victim is a story about how the system devours its own children. His name was Idris. He was 32, a young engineer promoted by Big Brother as a model citizen. He lived the life rewarded by the system. A good salary, respect, promises for the future. His job was simple, calculating the stability of the city's water system. He worked with numbers. Numbers, as he had been taught, never lie. But one day the numbers told him a dangerous truth. There were large cracks in the walls of the main water reservoir. The calculations showed that in the next heavy rain, those walls could collapse. He reported the information to his superiors. They laughed at him. This would cause panic, they said. And panic is the greatest threat to the system. adjust the numbers. But Idris trusted the numbers he had been taught. He would not obey. Instead, he shared the data with a few colleagues. Together, they decided to file official complaints. That was their last free decision. The next day, when Idris came to work, his office was empty. His computer was gone. His papers were gone. Even the little ficus he kept on his desk was gone. Everything suggested that he had never been there. They brought him in front of Big Brother. They told him, "We'll give you a choice. Either you forget this foolishness, and we'll give you a higher position, or we'll prosecute you for treason." He made a choice, but not the one they wanted. He tried to speak the truth in a public park in front of a few journalists. Some listened, but nothing was printed. Yet his words lived on the city's digital margins as anonymous messages. His punishment was more subtle. They did not fire him. Instead, they transferred him to a storage room. They gave him no work. Days, weeks, months passed, and he sat at an empty desk doing nothing. No one spoke to him. No one looked at him. This was an attempt on his mind to destroy him slowly, piece by piece, to drown him in his own silence. At some point, he remembers sitting in the storage room and crying. And then, nothing. His memory ends there. Now he wanders the city's streets. He has empty eyes and no expression on his face. He is Big Brother's greatest victory, a man who destroyed his own ideal. The next victim is a story that shows how the system poisons the most basic human relationships. Her name was Zarifa. She was 19, a delicate, idealistic student who had come from her village to the city to study. Her only weapons were the poems she wrote and her loyalty to her friends. Zarifa was a member of the University Literature Club. There, young people from all corners of the city who believed in the freedom of expression gathered. They read banned books, wrote their own poems, dreamed of the future. It was their small but firm haven. But for Big Brother, any gathering, even the most fragile, is a cancerous seed, and they sought to destroy every seed. One member of the club, a young man named Samid, harbored romantic feelings for Zarifa. She rejected his proposal. She was more committed to her ideas and her freedom. Humiliated by rejection, Samid went to Big Brother and told them everything about the club. The books they read, the discussions they held, even their private letters, everything. One evening during a club meeting, the door suddenly opened. Big Brother's agents entered. They read the names of the young people one by one and arrested them. When they called Zarifa's name last, Samid stood in the back. She met his eyes. He felt no regret, no remorse, only triumph. They offered Zarifa a deal. "Give us the names of the other members of the club, and we will release you." She refused, not because they trusted her, but because she trusted herself. They held her for a week. But this time there was no physical violence. Instead, they tried to break her psychologically. They told her that her friends had betrayed her, that rumors about her had been spread. They read Samid's statements to her, twisted them so that it seemed as if everyone blamed Zarifa. Finally, they released her. But freedom became the greatest prison. At the university, people avoided her. Her friends considered her a traitor. No one believed her. Samid became the school's most active student, rewarded by Big Brother. Zarifa now lives in a small room on the city outskirts. The walls are bare. She never writes. She never reads. She simply stares out the window at the street. Sometimes she sees Samid laughing and walking with his friends. Each time, she dies a little more. This time, the system won by turning friend against friend. And worst of all, they left no physical trace, only a moral ruin that will never heal. The next victim is a story that shows how the system poisons the most basic human relationships. Her name was Zarifa. She was 19, a delicate, idealistic student who had come from her village to the city to study. Her only weapons were the poems she wrote and her loyalty to her friends. Zarifa was a member of the University Literature Club. There, young people from all corners of the city who believed in the freedom of expression gathered. They read banned books, wrote their own poems, dreamed of the future. It was their small but firm haven. But for Big Brother, any gathering, even the most fragile, is a cancerous seed. And they sought to destroy every seed. One member of the club, a young man named Samid, harbored romantic feelings for Zarifa. She rejected his proposal. She was more committed to her ideas and her freedom. Humiliated by rejection, Samid went to Big Brother and told them everything about the club. The books they read, the discussions they held, even their private letters, everything. One evening during a club meeting, the door suddenly opened. Big Brother's agents entered. They read the names of the young people one by one and arrested them. When they called Zarifa's name last, Samid stood in the back. She met his eyes. He felt no regret, no remorse, only triumph. They offered Zarifa a deal. "Give us the names of the other members of the club, and we will release you." She refused, not because they trusted her, but because she trusted herself. They held her for a week. But this time there was no physical violence. Instead, they tried to break her psychologically. They told her that her friends had betrayed her, that rumors about her had been spread. They read Samid's statements to her, twisted them so that it seemed as if everyone blamed Zarifa. Finally, they released her, but freedom became the greatest prison. At the university, people avoided her. Her friends considered her a traitor. No one believed her. Samid became the school's most active student, rewarded by Big Brother. Zarifa now lives in a small room on the city outskirts. The walls are bare. She never writes. She never reads. She simply stares out the window at the street. Sometimes she sees Samid laughing and walking with his friends. Each time, she dies a little more. This time the system won by turning friend against friend. And worst of all, they left no physical trace, only a moral ruin that will never heal. The next victim is the story of how even the most experienced and careful people can be destroyed. His name was Rashid. He was 60, a quiet and mysterious man who ran a small watch repair shop in the city center. His only weapons were patience and precision. Mr. Rashid was the city's oldest watchmaker. For generations, the craft had been passed down in his family. His workshop was more than a place to repair clocks. It was the city's secret memory. People brought him not only their watches, but their trust and their secrets. But for Big Brother, Mr. Rashid's workshop was a place they could not control. People could speak freely there, share thoughts. That was unacceptable. One day, Big Brother's agents came to his workshop with an offer. "Work for us. Install listening devices inside the watches we bring you. We will pay you well." Mr. Rashid refused. "I am a watchmaker, not a spy," he said. They laughed. There is no difference, they said. Either work with us, or this workshop will be closed. Mr. Rashid refused again. He would not betray his craft or his ethics. Within a week, inspectors began to visit his shop regularly. They found problems in his work permit, tax records, even in the electrical installations. He was fined heavily. Customers were frightened away. Mr. Rashid kept resisting. He paid fines from his savings and kept working. But his income steadily declined. Customers came less and less. Finally, one day, a fire broke out in his workshop. The official report said it was an accident, but everyone knew it was Big Brother's doing. Mr. Rashid lost everything. Even the generational watchmaking tools were destroyed in the fire. He had nothing left, yet he still resists. Now he works on a mobile bench in the street, repairing watches. The few coins he earns, he gives to other victims, to those in need. He never speaks, but his silent resistance is the city's loudest voice. The next victim is a story of how even the weakest and most defenseless can be destroyed. Her name was Adan. She was 28, a social worker active in the city's outer neighborhoods. Her only weapons were compassion and the desire to help people. Adan worked with children, those who lived on the street, those without families, or those from troubled households. She fed them, taught them to read, showed them love and care. Her small center was a safe haven for these children. But for Big Brother, Adan's work was a threat. She helped the children the system wanted to forget. She exposed their painful realities. One day, Big Brother's agents came to her center. They told her she was raising children against the state, teaching them illegal ideas. They revoked her license and closed the center. Adan tried to resist. She sought public support, but no one dared help. The children's parents were afraid. Organizations that might have helped remained silent. Eventually, slanders were spread against her. They claimed she molested the children, that she harmed them. It was entirely false, but enough people were ready to believe. Adan was arrested. The trial was a formality. There was no evidence, but she was declared guilty. They told her that if she confessed her sins publicly, her sentence might be reduced. She refused. She chose to keep her dignity. Now she sits in prison on meager rations. The worst of it is knowing that the children on the street are now in an even harder situation. That is her greatest torment. This time the system had won by targeting the most innocent. And no one protested because everyone was afraid. Everyone. But even in prison, Adan continues to resist. She teaches the other inmates to read. She tells them her stories. Her voice echoes inside the prison walls, quietly but firmly. And sometimes at night she looks out through the cell's small window and tells herself that one day this system will fall. One day. This story is not just an ordinary tale. It is the story of the fear, the silence, and the unwillingness to change the system that many of us accept as ordinary every day. Ahmed's, Layla's, Kamran's, Idris's, Zarifa's, Rashid's, and Aidan's stories are all of our stories. Keeping their voices alive depends on our will. Remember, every share, every like, every comment is a small step to bring these voices to more people. If this video touched you, like the video. It tells the algorithms that this content is valuable. Turn on notifications. Be the first to hear the next story. Let us make our voice louder together. Subscribe to my channel. for more stories like this and more social justice content. Write your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think will be the next victim? Or, what can we do to stand against the system? Together, we can turn silence into voice.